Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining. We're seeing some people coming in, so we're going to give them a few minutes and we'll get started in about 3 minutes. For those of you who are just joining, we're going to get started in about 1 minute.
Looks like somebody's already asked a question. Is the recording of the webinar will be sent? There will definitely be a recording of the webinar posted to Devo, and I think the slides get sent out. But do the recordings get sent out, Maggie?
Yes, we'll make sure to send out the recording. I'll also be sending out an email right after the call with the slides and then relevant links, because we have quite a few links to documentation in this webinar. And then early next week, the recording will be sent out. So there's just a little bit of a lag time on that, but we will send it.
And for the record, all of our past webinars, like our tips and tricks webinar that we did, I think the last time, all of that is posted out to devo.com. So you can go there, go to the webinars, and the webinars are all posted. So if you missed them, always great to go out there and check the recordings and replay them.
Alrighty, I think we're ready to get started. You guys good to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good
Let's
to go.
do it.
Yep.
Fernando, Jacob, you guys good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, let's get started. So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to showcase some of our newest features that Devo has released over the past few months, a lot of which really help you kind of customize and maximize your Devo deployment. So really excited to feature those. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Maggie. I'm the team lead for customer marketing, help organize our customer webinars. So please feel free to reach out to me if you guys have ever want to, get recordings again for past webinars, ideas for future webinars. I am the person to come to. So we always like to make sure that we are delivering what our customers are looking for this content. Just some housekeeping before we get started. Please make sure to drop all questions in the Q&A. We will make sure to get all of them answered online. And then if any need follow-up, I will actively be recording it, and then we'll make sure to follow up after the call as well. So I've already introduced myself. I'm going to pass it over to Fernando to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Fernando Jorge. I'm one of the technical marketing engineers here at Devo, and I'm based in Austin, Texas.
And for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Adam Foyt. I'm also in the technical marketing team with Fernando. I am based out of Nashville, Tennessee.
And hello, everybody. My name is Jacob Bauer. I'm on a team called the Technical Acceleration Team at Devo. Our goal is to help extend the platform, build solutions on top of the platform to help it fit all customers' needs and to be solving problems for customers agilely on top of the platform. So really happy to be chatting with you all today.
Awesome. Yes, we have a great group of us here today. So any and all questions, bring them to us. So here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to highlight some of our new Devo Exchange content, particularly our MITRE ATT&CK Advisor and the CISO dashboard. Super excited to showcase that. We also have some active boards updates, new UI updates, stat count, and then we're going to talk about at the end some self-service tools. So the App Developer Kit, and then Jacob is going to be talking about the Alert API. So let's dive in. I'm going to pass it over to Adam.
Sure. Thanks, Maggie. All right. First thing that I want to talk about is the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor. MITRE ATT&CK Advisor is a new application that's built on top of the Devo platform, so it is not an active board. It's an application. And it's a tool to enable security teams to understand what their security posture is, what their coverage is in terms of the MITRE ATT&CK framework, the techniques on the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and allows you to kind of tie our out-of-the-box detections and alerts to the MITRE ATT&CK framework to help you understand, what tips and techniques that you're covered for and where you may have some gaps that you want to address. I'm going to show you that in just a second. Now, you can use the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor and map that to the recent Cisco vulnerability that was detected not too long ago. Shout out to Juan Del Rio. I don't know if he's on this call, but he has an awesome two-part kind of breakdown of how you can use the new MITRE Advisor application and all of the content that we've created to look at your vulnerability for that Cisco vulnerability. This is posted on the Devo community. So if you just click this link, it takes you to this excellent two-part article by Juan. I would highly recommend that you guys go into this. We're not going to waste the time going over it today, but certainly have a look when you get a chance. And if you're not in the Devo community, certainly join today at community.devo.com. There's this great content and a ton of great content being posted out there all of the time. We're also going to show you the CISO dashboard. This is another application that's built on top of the Devo platform. It's a standalone application, not an active board. It displays kind of the current state of security in your environment, showing you active incidents, active threats, and breaks down those threats and alerts by infrastructure. So is it happening on the network? Is it happening in one of my cloud environments like AWS or GCP or Azure? Is it something that's coming in from my endpoints? And I'll show you a version of that here in just a minute. Both the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor and the CISO dashboard are built using the new App Developer Kit. So everything you need to know about that you can find in this link of the documentation. This is kind of a standalone piece of software that allows you to build your own applications, just like the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor or the CISO dashboard. You can use these in your own environment, and if you want to, you can publish those applications to the Devo Exchange and share them with the community at large, where other Devo users can install and use them. So without further ado, let's just go into this and show you some examples of what I'm talking about. All right, am I sharing my screen? Can everybody see my screen? Looks like I'm sharing. Maggie, can you see
Yes.
the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor?
I can.
Great.
I can too.
All right, so this is the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor application. It's installable from the Exchange. So if you want to, this is the Devo Exchange. It's available to everybody that has the Devo platform. You just click this little icon inside of Devo, and it will take you to the Exchange. You can see that you can install it right there. You can download and install it. It says application right there. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to map all of my data sources, right? So all of the data sources I have coming into Devo, all of the installed alerts that I have configured, and map all of that to the MITRE ATT&CK tips or techniques and tactics to show me where I have coverage and where I don't. For example, right here under the reconnaissance column of the MITRE ATT&CK framework, you can see that I've got 2 of the 6 alerts available installed for the reconnaissance tactics. Same here with resource development. You can see here that where it's a red, I have 0 alerts installed that allow me to look at this particular tactic. And then if you click here, it'll show me that I have the 1-for-1 alerts installed. And if you scroll down here, down to the bottom, it actually shows you whether or not things are installed or not installed per technique, and it also shows you the data sources. Now, if I want a better idea of coverage in terms of, hey, show me all of the log sources I'm ingesting and the ones I'm not ingesting and the tactics and techniques covered by the log sources I'm not ingesting. So right there, I'm not ingesting any data currently in this environment from GCP, the Google Public Cloud. And it shows me, because I'm not ingesting that, there are a bunch of tactics and techniques that are not covered. So if I want to go in and get coverage for these particular techniques, I need to start ingesting cloud GCP data sources in order to increase my coverage in that particular area. So this is a great tool for understanding and being able to communicate to stakeholders in the business where you've got coverage and where you don't have coverage. I can also go here to my alert coverage, and instead of looking at just the alerts that are installable for Devo, if I click the full matrix, this includes everything in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, even for things that Devo doesn't have any installable alerts for. So this, again, this just kind of rounds you out and shows you everything, all the vulnerabilities that you may have gaps, and you may need to install either alerts from Devo or increase your coverage by ingesting more data sources. And if I want to, I can even do it by threat group, right? So I can go here and if I'm concerned about a particular threat group, I can go in here and then reorder the MITRE ATT&CK Advisor for just tactics and techniques for that particular threat group. Now, you can see here that, for instance, I have 0 for 2 alerts installed for this particular tactic. Same over here. If I go over to the impact column, if I want to increase coverage, again, all I have to do is go to the exchange, and we are coming out with new alerts for these MITRE tactics and techniques all of the time. So right there, there is an alert pack for the impact tactics. And if I were to download and install those, you would see my coverage increase for all of those alerts that I've installed over here in my impact techniques. So again, this makes it very easy for you to go in and understand where you've got defenses and where you may need to bolster your defenses, either from installing alerts, configuring alerts, or installing your data sources. This is the CISO dashboard. This is another application developed using the application framework. We've developed this so instead of looking for tactics and techniques and kind of where your defenses are strong and where you may need to bolster your defenses, this is more of a real-time view into your environment that shows you active incidents, active threats, or alerts coming in from all of the various pieces of your infrastructure. So this would show me alerts that are coming in from my network, from my cloud. Cloud would be things like AWS, GCP. Alerts that are coming in from my endpoints, either from log sources or from the universal agent. Applications, these could be alerts related to components of the application, like a like a web server, for example, or it might be like an end user response time alert, like, hey, response time has exceeded a threshold for a given application for my end users, and I may want to go in and look at that and investigate that a little bit more deeply. So this is a way for you to just understand what's currently going on in your environment at a particular point in time, and you could drill into this for more information. Both of these applications, the CISO Master Dashboard, as well as the MITRE Attack Advisor application, are both available out here on the Devo Exchange. You can download them and install them and begin using them right now. All right. So I think that's all I had. I think I'm going to pass the ball over to Fernando. One more thing, both of those applications are created using the App Developer Kit. The App Developer Kit can be made available to you by requesting it from support. And there's a link to the documentation on the App Developer Kit in the slides that we're going to share with you. All right, Fernando, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to see related to more features, including active boards and also with the UI. So starting with the active board, active boards are an established tool in the Devo to analyze data evolution over time. And this particular one, the time-lapse widget that we're going to see in a couple of minutes, it's a type of line chart that allows you to superimpose data so you can analyze them on different periods of time. And it is useful for you when you have seasonality affected data that needs to be analyzed for variations and the evolution between those. And on the UI side, we're going to see a new feature called stat count. This is an analysis tool that allows you to easily analyze the distinct values of each of the data set on the table, on the columns. You need to be aware that the data considered is the data that you have in your search time range. And this feature is not enabled by default. You need to contact your our support team for them to be able to activate it. So let's jump right into it. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as we said before, the time-lapse widget, you can analyze data affected by seasonality to find variation from different moments in a series. So let's say that you want to compare variations over time from the platform. The first thing that we are going to do is to add the time-lapse widget. When you click on the top of it, you're going to open the settings of it, and we're going to look first for the query. Here you can add the name of the time-lapse, some description, and the data source. Let's look into this one. So it's going to start to load the data for it. To use this widget, the source query must meet some requirements. It must include columns with a timestamp value typically the event date and a numerical value. We can look for that information in the visual tab of it. So here we have that the x-axis, it includes the event date, that is the timestamp, and the y-axis includes the events, that is the amount of events on this particular table. That's the only one that we have, but if you have a table that has more than one numerical value, it's going to show here in the drop-down options. If the query contains more than 2 numerical values, the first 2 are going to be selected automatically. Although, as I mentioned, you can change the selection in the visual settings. The next option that we have here is to fill the gaps. So we need to fill the gaps. The way that we want to fill the gap as a SETI value plots. The empty values at 0 nodes or as null, it will leave them empty. If you select the connected plots, a line on the chart that connect each of the nodes with values will be bypassing the empty values. So to create a labs, we just need to click here in the new labs. When we create the first labs, we can set up the time that we want that labs to be included, time frame. So you can either scroll with the mouse, that's what I'm doing here. I'm just scrolling with the mouse and set up the labs, or you can use the keyboard or just drag it. You need to be aware that this time frame is going to apply to the other labs that you add. So every time that you add a new labs, it's going to be set up with this same time frame. So here, you can link them if you want to move them around and you want to move them as a group. So let's say that you want to inspect this one, you can move it around. You can look at the values of each of the labs. It's going to tell you the information about the timestamp and the amount of events. Also, on top, if you click, you're going to see information related to that labs. So it's going to show you the amount of events that are on that particular time lapse, the average of events, and the higher and the lower value. The same for the other one. And here on the right side, we can also edit the information about each of the labs that we created. We can assign a particular name and also a particular color. From the bottom here, we can just zoom in on the events or zoom out. Let me just expand this so we can see graphic better. And if we want to reset the zoom, just click here and we can reset the zoom. We can do the expansion of the time frame anytime during a live search. It's not static, so as you can see here, I'm just expanding the time frame. And the last tab that we have here is with the raw data. As I mentioned before, the link is going to link all the time frames that we have, the time lapse that we have, and the snap slider. This is what gonna do. Is gonna do a rounded time when you move them. So it's gonna move basically the same amount of time that we have within the lapse. Let me reduce it so you can see the difference when I move it around. But if I expand it, then the lapse, when I move it, it's gonna be bigger. So that's it basically for the time lapse. Now let's see the stat count feature. So the stat count feature is in the data search side of the platform. So given the vast amount of data processed by the platform, most of the time you can gain a complete understanding of the results that you are viewing in the browser. So for example, using the same example that I was using on the time lapse, here we have a search, and here we are seeing that the data loaded by the browser is about 50% of the data. See here I have a progress of 50%. I have 8,288 events that are being loaded using about 3.5 megabytes, and it's still saying to me that I have a gap remaining here. So let's say that you want to get a quick overview of all the values in the table, in this column table. We go here into the tools. We select the stat count. When you have the data that it's about 50% here, so you are seeing half of the event, you know that it can then lead to some inaccurate analysis. So this is why this tool was built. So you're going to see that the progress bar is going to start loading and the amount of events are going to go up. So far, we are already beyond the 8,000 events that we had at the beginning. So once it's loaded, you're going to see the total events on this particular query that we searched at the beginning. And here we can start digging down for more information. We can do a live search that is going to be basically doing an autocomplete. We can also edit the list and eliminate some fields that we are not interested on them. And if we want to go deeper into the query or the event, we can click and generate basically a report. We have some options here. The top values is going to be either an exact match. So what this means is that it's going to go into all the data in the server and it's going to do an exact calculation, or it can also be an estimated. Since the values or the amount of data for this particular search in the server is not that large, by default it's going into the exact mode. If it was an estimated, you will see the values with a symbol on front of it that is gonna then let you know that is an estimated value. Here also you can filter and remove all the null values if you don't want them to be seen. And when you click on one of the, let's say one of the values, it is going to automatically fill out that filter in the query editor. So you're gonna start seeing it immediately in the search. So it is again loading, and the good thing about this tool is that you can continue filtering directly from here. So if you want to see, for this example, if you want to see just the information of this particular collector, just click on it and it's going to fill the query, and it's going to then provide you with only those events that you are seeing for this particular filter that you just created. And as you can see here, we are still using 50% of the load of the data, and it's not then adding more stress into the browser. So I think that's all from my side. Let me then hand it to Jacob. Let me finish here. My screen share.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I'm going to move us over to the next slide and talk about the Alerts API today. 1 second here. Let me just flip over the slides. Perfect. So, as we're talking about features that we wanted to highlight today, the Alerts API is certainly one that we wanted to talk about. The Alerts API is a feature that's been around for a while, but there have been some recent updates to it, and it's certainly a feature that we believe is really powerful. So I wanted to give folks both a refresher on the functionality of the API itself and how you can use it, and then also talk about some of the new features that are available via the Alerts API. So for those that are unfamiliar with it, the Devo Alerts API is, a public-facing URL that allows Devo users to interact with alert definitions and now triggered alerts themselves via web requests to that API. This unlocks a couple, new features on top of core Devo alerting, where you can install alerts via SecOps or via data search. And what this allows you to do is write your own alerts that are using, kind of API-only syntax or advanced features that aren't in data search yet. This includes things like writing queries that include subqueries, or writing alerts that include subqueries, or using some of the various powerful API functions we have, such as collecting a distinct set of values, or, applying logic to arrays of data. The other functionality that the Alerts API really enables is all kinds of programmatic interaction with your alerts. So if you wanted, for instance, to have some sort of script or a playbook that you wrote that whenever you discovered a new IOC automatically deployed an alert within your Devo environment to start tracking or looking for that IOC, you could design your program to interact with the Devo Alerts API to create that alert without ever logging into the Devo platform or needing to have any manual action taken on behalf of the customer. As I've alluded to, one way that you can interact with the Alerts API is via, any programmatic means of your choice, whether that's using Python or Java or JavaScript to interact with the web endpoint, or you can also use tools like Postman or things like that to interact with it. Within the Devo UI, for customers that don't want to do that programmatic piece, but they still want the power of being able to write subquery-based alerts or use some of that advanced API syntax functionality, you can use a tool called the Alerts Manager add-on that will be available, that's available today in the Applications menu. If you don't have that application within your environment, just contact customer success or professional services, and it should be a button switch for them to go and add that application to your domain. Now that you know a little bit about the Alerts API, I can talk a little bit about new features that have been added into the Alerts API. In the past, the Alerts API allowed you to interact with the definition of alerts, and the new version of the API has some advanced features to actually let you deal with fired alerts. So you can do things like request information about which alerts have fired in your ecosystem, whether from kind of a statistical summary basis or asking details or summary or details or individual results of all the alerts that are fired. You can also toggle things like the status of alerts. You can add tags onto alerts. And you can do all the kinds of CRUD, create, edit, delete type operations on top of fired alerts to be tagging alerts with comments that can enable different workflows within the system. I realized that actually we did leave one other feature off of this list that became available since I believe the last time we did a webinar on the Alerts API, which is we now have the ability within the Devo UI to generate a token straight from the Devo UI that allows you to interact with the Alerts API programmatically. So with that in mind, I'd like to just hop over to the Devo UI and show you a little bit about how you can interact with the Alerts API today via the Devo Web UI, the Alert Manager add-on. So I believe you should now be seeing my screen on the Devo homepage. Maggie, could you confirm that you can see that?
Cannot see it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Maybe
can't see
maybe there's a
either.
problem.
It's all
Okay,
gray for me.
I was seeing it come up gray as well. I wasn't sure if that was an issue on my end or elsewhere. Apologies for this. We did a dry run yesterday, but give me 1 second. I'll try something different.
It looks like it's trying to draw, but then nothing comes up.
I'm going to switch which monitor I'm sharing. I'll do that in 1 second. Try sharing my other monitor here and see if that gives me a better success. Still doesn't seem to be sharing. Sincere apologies here. I think my best bet is going to be to just drop, and I will be right back and try this again. Sorry for the glitches here. Right back.
No problem.
In the meantime, we have some questions that have come in that Adam and Fernando kind of cover your section.
Sure.
So one question we had is, should SecOps alerts be installed through the Devo Exchange or the SecOps Content Manager?
So SecOps alerts should always be installed through Content Manager. That's definitely the way you always want to do it. The alerts that I was showing for in the alert pack, those don't require SecOps. So if you don't have SecOps, which again is an application built on the Devo platform, if you just have the regular Devo with no SecOps, you can still install the MITRE Attack Advisor application, install those alert packs, and still use the MITRE Attack Advisor regardless of whether or not you have SecOps. The SecOps alerts are all installed through the Content Manager and are specific to SecOps.
Okay, great. Jacob, I just saw it pop up. Are you good?
Yep, I did it. Yeah, I believe we should be good to go now. I didn't want to.
We will resume questions after you're done.
All right, cool. You should now be seeing a Devo home page, right?
Yep, I see it.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much, and apologies again for the inconvenience there. I'm in a test domain here, and so talking about how you can interact with the Alerts API. The first piece that I'll point you to that if you want to interact with the Alerts API programmatically, you can come in here to the credentials section of the UI, and you can now generate a new token that has the ability to interact with the Alerts API. So that's a pretty cool feature for those of you that want to self-service, be writing scripts or applications to interact with Devo and be defining new alerts in that way. The other big piece that I wanted to highlight is how you can use the Alert Manager add-in to leverage some of the functionalities of the Alerts API. So the Alert Manager add-on, as I mentioned, is just an application completely free to use, available here within Devo. If you don't have it installed today, you can just go and ask customer success. They can turn that on for you. And what we're seeing here is the list of all alerts that are defined within this environment. You can see which ones are enabled or live or things like that. And if I want to use the Alerts API to create an advanced alert, I can come in here, just click on a new alert. I can specify all kind of the normal fields that I would define whenever creating an alert elsewhere in the platform. And I can interact with any number of types of alerts available here. There are links to documentation and all the different little tooltips here. And let's say that I want to define an alert based on a subquery. I can come in and write my query against multiple data sources or against two sets of data sources that I want to correlate and define that alert here. So in this example, what we might want to do, we might have wrote a subquery that collects for a username all the different URLs that they visited within a domain. We then want to look for any user that visits a bad URL. And what we're going to do is we're going to correlate users that visit a bad URL. We're going to correlate that with the list of all URLs they visited. Notice this is leveraging the API-only functionality of a collect distinct function available in Link that lets you get an array of distinct values. And then we're going to filter this to say where the length of URLs visited is greater than 10. So if I were to define this alert in kind of simple human speak, it's looking for a user that's visited a bad URL that's also visited 10 distinct URLs over some past period of time. There are a few different parameters that you have to specify here, such as the internal query period. So I might say, I want to track every 1 minute for users that visited some bad URL. And I want to look for users that have visited those 10 distinct URLs over the last 1 day or over the last 1 hour, depending on how I want to define my use case. There are a couple other parameters here. Again, we define in the tooltip how they're used, but they define kind of how to offset the periods that the inner and the outer query are investigating. You just define your alert here. And from this point, you can create your own alert and leverage the advanced capabilities that the Devo language has, as well as that features like subqueries and other things have. So yeah, that's kind of the quick summary of the Alerts API, some of the functionality that it brings, and why we're excited to share that with you, and hope that it's something that you'll find really useful.
And Jacob, I just wanted to highlight one more thing that you had there, Jacob, was yes, you do have to get access to the Alert Manager application that Jacob was showing you there. But you still also have to, even if you have access to that for the domain, you still have to have the roles and permissions set for the user to access that application, right? So there's two levels. One, Devo has to say, yes, you have this application. But then not every user in their domain, of course, would have access to that Alert Manager application, right? As the administrator, you still have to grant access to every single application to specific users and roles, right? So there's like 2 layers of accessibility there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Adam. And there are actually a few different layers. Just to click into that one step further. So first of all, you can assign access to the application itself to different users. The second part is that the application itself, even it's not just a simple binary on or off for a given set of users. It actually respects the role-based access that you have set in place for alerts within your environment. So if you have 2 different users, one user is an admin and one user only has the ability to see a subset of the alerts defined within that domain, the Alert Manager add-on will let that admin see all of the alerts. And whenever that second user that only has access to the 10 alerts opens up the Alert Manager add-on, they will see those 10 alerts that they have access to. So not only is the application itself able to be turned on and off for different roles, but the application also respects the roles that you have in the role-based access control that you have in place around alerts themselves within the tool. So
just want to clarify that. Thanks for that clarification, Jake, because I didn't want somebody on the call who didn't necessarily have access to it to be like freak out and be like, oh, this isn't working or whatever. You still have to. It still respects all of the standard rules and permissions that you have in your environment regarding alerts. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, we do. So that wraps up everything we had. So if you have any questions, keep dropping them in the chat, and I'm going to start running through some of the ones that we do have. So I'm going to start with the Alerts API. So what's the benefit of using it over other forms of alerting you can do in Devo? And I guess kind of what would you recommend using the Alerts API for over other forms of alerting, Jacob?
Yeah, great question. So I mean, it's less of a choice and more of an extension. The core Devo functionality, has really powerful abilities. So what the Alerts API really does is sits on top of that and just kind of takes it that extra step further. So really, I'd say there might be kind of 2 to 3 use cases where I'd really say, hey, if you're interested in doing this, the Alerts API is for you. The first is, as I mentioned, if you want to use these advanced functions and functionality and features like subquery-based alerts, once you're a Devo Power user and you know how to write those sorts of things, and you want to write alerts that are correlating data, the Alerts API is definitely a way to do that. The second reason is, if you want to have automation around deploying alerts or interacting with alerts. So, for instance, you use SOAR technology, and you want to have some workflow that actually goes and deploys an alert for you without any user taking action. That's a great use case for the Alerts API. You should be able to configure your SOAR to interact with the endpoint there, and without any manual user action, boom, you've got a new alert deployed because you detected some IP address via Devo, you sent that through a pipeline, you decided that it is malicious, and now you want to be tracking that IP address moving forward. I'd say the third piece is maybe a little bit more of a practicality one. If you're really a power user that likes to just go in, just what you're doing whenever you're writing link queries, and you want to just go in and define an alert really quickly, the Alert API, Alert Manager add-on is a great way to just go in, click a button, write your query real quick, and boom, you've created your alert. And it can cut out some of that time of going through data search, which obviously has an immense more number of features and functionalities. But because it's doing so much, it's less of a streamlined process. So if you're really looking to streamline, get some alerts into the system or deploy a new alert, it can be a great tool for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. Okay, next question is on the app developer kit. So someone asked, what is the lead time on app development to publishing in the Devo Exchange?
Okay, I'll take that one. So that's a good question. It really depends on the application. So the way that it works is, first of all, if you want to just use the application in your own domain, you could do that with no lead time whatsoever. That works pretty much self-service. However, if you want to share the application on the Devo Exchange and make it available for the entire community to download and use, then the lead time is going to be, let's say 3 to 5 weeks. Let's say 3 to 6 weeks. Let's give ourselves a week extra. So what happens is that goes into the Devo development team, the same team that actually develops the MITRE Attack Advisor and the CISO dashboard and all the applications for Devo. So that goes to them, and they review that content. They test the content and make sure that it is applicable to not just that, not just your domain, but applicable to everyone. And then they will publish it after it has been vetted. So depending on how complicated it is, that could take anywhere from, let's say, 3 to 6 weeks.
Okay, great. And then a follow-up is that if you do decide to get it posted on the Exchange, do creators receive credit for those applications?
Definitely they receive credit. They may receive credit, and I don't know, there may be some other incentive that we could throw out there. I would love to see more community-driven applications on Devo Exchange. Now that we've got the community, I think it's going to be a lot easier to collaborate across environments with that kind of content. So I think it's very plausible that we may even have a best community-driven content, prize or contest at some point in the near future around that.
Yes, definitely. Okay, awesome. Last question I'm seeing for right now is, do you need security operations to leverage the MITRE Attack Advisor?
No, you do not. That is a great question. You do not need Devo security operations to leverage the MITRE Attack Advisor application. So whether you have SecOps or not, I would encourage everyone on the call to go into the Devo Exchange, download the MITRE Attack Advisor app. Also, go into those alert packs for the MITRE Attack Advisor and install those. Obviously, only install the alert packs that you have data sources for. It's not going to do you any good to install an alert pack if you're not collecting data for it, because it's just going to show up as you're not ingesting that data, and so you're not going to have coverage for it anyway. But certainly for all of the alerts that you have matching data sources for, I would heavily encourage everyone to install those alert packs.
Awesome. Those are all of the questions we received on the call. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to email me. I will also share Adam, Jacob, and Fernando's email in an email I'm sending right after this call with some relevant links. We'll also share the slides from today, and then you should receive the recording in a few days, and we'll make sure to post that on Devo Connect as well. So that is all we had for you today. Before we go, I'm just going to highlight an upcoming event we have, which Devo is super excited about. It is our second annual SOC Analyst Appreciation Day, and it is on October 19th. It's a virtual event that we created last year to pay kudos to SOC analysts and have conversations about the profession with a bunch of really cool people in the industry. So our agenda just was posted last week, and we have some really great sessions queued up with some really cool influencers in the space, with fellow SOC analysts, with some Devo customers. You can claim swag and kind of learn more about how to get involved. So I highly encourage everybody go to socanalystday.com to learn more. But other than that, that is all we had today. So thank you all so much for joining, and we will see you on our next customer webinar.
Thanks, everybody.